afternoon. Oh my gosh, I am back with part 2 of the, it's like part 5 of the Destructiun of Masculinity series, but I'm like trying to finish up this last live I did in that series about this woman murderer, and I don't really want to talk about it. And right before I was going live, I was trying to think, like, why don't you, Emily? Why is this so, like, why are you avoiding this? And I don't want to talk about the types of toxic feminine that are, like, have gotten so bad, the mold has festered to the point of, like, the only expression is, like, murder, or the ultimate expression of it is murder, and like all of these, it's just a gross story it's almost like it's PR shit. I'm like, talk about women like this? How dare I give up our trade secrets? Like, no one needs to know how deep the programming goes, how dark it can get in here, and how it is expressed. Am I saying that white women are the only killers? No. But the specific type of programming with white women and murder, and just like death in general, oh my goodness. We're kind of the masters of it, and we kind of know how to use other people for it, drive other people to do it, or, you know, get our hands dirty ourselves when required in a way that is like, it's like no other. I mean, you know, like, I don't know, men are more prone to crimes of passion and stuff, but like the cold, detached nature with which a woman can decide to be like, yep, I'm going to commit murder now, is quite insane. And I've been like looking a lot into true crime and stuff, to really like see evidence of that type of stuff. And yes, like most murders and true crime and things that are like on a national scale with like national media attention, the players are programmed Manchurian candidates, perhaps MI plants, perhaps conscious of it, and at sometimes unconscious of it, and just like being manipulated to play a role in whatever play is happening that requires those models to influence the storyline, right? The pain matrix storyline. But I chose this, General Koa sent me this story of this woman, Nancy Brophy. And by the way, it's Nancy Brophy. Just give her a quick Google to see her face. General Koa gave me this story in particular and said that's a good place to start talking about a woman murderer. Because there's so many tropes of white womanhood apparent in her case that are like those tropes the dial turned up on them to 1,000,000 to see where they like end up, where they make you end up. I'm just gonna transition this page into a mukbang channel eventually. I'm eating a pumpkin seed right now, and it tastes like weed because of a specific mineral that's in pumpkin seeds. I forget what it's called. Okay, so what are these tropes that I'm talking about that Nancy Brophy is exemplary in having? Well, an incredible amount of arrogance to the point of really feeling invincible, like that she would not get caught, and that she could do something and no one would think it was her, right? The idea that she felt like she could use her white womanhood and her old ladiness to go commit murder, even after writing a story about how to murder your husband. And like a kind of illusional, I'd say, rather than delusional, illusional. Because D is like getting out of the illusion. Illusional is tunneling deeper into the illusion that everyone lives inside in the pay matrix. Like you're going more along with the pay matrix programming, which is antithetical to human beingness and like sense and nature. So she had an illusional self-image. Like she thought she was a great writer. You can quickly Google her stories and figure out that is not the case. She thought that she was smart. She thought she was clever. And she thought she would get away with it. And she also, and this is the part that's like maybe the deeper thing, she had an incredible anxiety around self-image. The whole thing that prompted this was her out-of-control spending and her desire to not want to reveal her problems with addictions to shopping to her husband, and did not want to be outed as like bankrupt in her community, and could not control herself, and did not want to acknowledge the reality, and kept all of this stuff to herself and did not share anything. Now, can I relate to a lot of those things? It is part of the white woman program. Of course I can. I grew up never wanting to be vulnerable and share about my own self, and was very, very caught up in my own self-image, thinking that other people thought about me a lot more than they did. Being very, very prone to keeping things inside and not expressing them, repressing them, and only relying on chaos or tragedy in my life, or just things that were crazy, to prompt me to then finally share or be vulnerable. It was too hard for me on my own to do that shit, and I need something crazy to like loosen up the emotional atmosphere, I guess. Like, and I can imagine if you were to have that go unchecked and exacerbated, and it was like a million times, like I said, the dial turned up a million times, you could get to the point of like feeling so out of control. White women love control, we're addicted to it, and trying to wrestle it back through some crazy shit, some violence. And the thing that this woman was so scared of being vulnerable about was like telling her husband that she had spent all their money and that they were in massive debt, and it was her fault, and it impacted her self-image. He did not have these problems. And And she wanted to maintain control of the image of being perfect. And we have this victim programming that we love to use our victimhood, weaponize everyone wanting to put us in the role of victim and us being comfortable in that place, to the point where she had this added bonus of getting to be the widow who just lost her husband, and like, of course she's going to leave town and just go heal, and she doesn't have to have responsibility or accountability or anything, and she can just go fuck off. And I'll post maybe in the comments the link to the YouTube about this woman, so you can just see the whole story. But why does it make me so uncomfortable? Because I can see all of these ugly character aspects, and I can see the possibility or the capability for them in myself. If I wasn't here, if I didn't do the work that I do to like deprogram from these things, there are a lot of ways, even before I came here, that my life mirrored some of these things as this woman, like some of these types of programming. And it is a very lonely place to be when you can never be vulnerable and tell your true thoughts and feelings and anxieties to anyone else in a adult human way, which is like moving your mouth and saying the things, not like letting things get chaotic and having the world show people your problems by like enveloping them in the problems that you cannot talk about, and therefore create a giant fucking witch magician cloud around and create chaos. That's a really invulnerable way to share and talk about your problems, because you're not talking about them, you're letting them control you and attempting to let them control other people. And for this woman, rather than talk and have a fucking honest conversation where she just says who she is and what her problems are to her husband, she chooses to try and feign control, because white women don't actually have control. And the ironic part about it is the more we grasp for it and try to exert it, the more it becomes obviously clear that is an impossible task for us. But if she had done those things, she wouldn't have gotten to the point where she started to just resent her husband for things that she wouldn't tell him, and how he acted around things that he didn't know about, like how he wasn't anxious or worried about money or like anything that was going on, because she wasn't telling him about it. And she used the mold bomb of unexpressed feeling and fear and anxiety and shame. Really, shame is a big one, to make an explosion of her going out and murdering him rather than dealing with the emotional. And all of the things, disease, conflict, all of it has root in the emotional realm. You feel feelings from emotions, and it's just a outward effect from that. And if you can go to that root and be an emotionally mature being, process the emotions rather than repress them, which just white culture, pain matrix culture in general, does not want to do. You don't have to have the crazy shit that snowballs into effect. Oh, there's a bruise. And yes, I don't want to say this and take away personal responsibility, but there are demons. You get possessed by demons. Demons love chaos and breaking bonds. They work for Satan and the Pain Matrix. They love stoking the fires of narcissism and every other personality disorder. And this woman is very much, I would call her an overt narcissist. So there's that she's working with. But here's a part that implicates me in my own story. When I was watching her on the stand testifying about her husband, and they're just like drawing information out of her and getting to see just how fucking self-obsessed and narcissistic she is, and how like creepily happy she is for the attention of getting to be on the stand and talk about herself. Seeing that and seeing her like turn every question about her husband into how she is awesome or what she gets from a relationship with him and what she is deserving of and how she is served by his love and how he is awesome for loving her, it makes me cringe because I can see how I have been cluelessly self-involved in that same way. Not in the exact same way, but like making a thing about me and my image and like just all about me. When I was little, I lived in Maine, and my dad found that there was this store, like the Maine travel store, that had everything that said I love me, and like it's all about ME, like Maine, and he like was so obsessed with it and bought some like mugs and koozies and stuff, and came back and was like, oh my gosh, look. But it's a lonely place to either be like on the positive side and think like everything's about me, I'm awesome, I'm great, as well as the negative side of like, oh my gosh, people care so much about what I look like or how I act and how I affect their lives, and like that's the same type of the flip side of the coin of like illusional self-involved shit that is super antisocial and cringe. And I grew up with like intense social anxiety that was completely like and I could couch it as a victimized situation where it was so hard for me. I like lost so much weight in high school because I like was afraid to go into the fucking cafeteria and sit and find a place to sit because all my friends graduated. But really, instead of being a victim about it, my anxiety was wrapped up in self-involvement, and I could have just gotten over it, and people didn't care as much as I thought they did, and that should be a relief. And instead I got put on SSRIs that just further pushed out the day I would ever emotionally process my feelings and grow, rather than just continue a like zombied out existence of dissociation. But the Pain Matrix puts that on the docket for white women. We are the most medicated group of people. Because, hey, we hold the Pain Matrix together. Shame pussy, rotten pussy, like repressed pussy, fear pussy. That is the thing that controls the men who people think run the Pain Matrix. If white pussy was not a problem and had joy and like healed, the Pain Matrix would no longer function, because we are what props it up and runs people to keep it up. People serve white pussy. And what's so exciting about, and frightening, I guess, for me, because if I don't get my shit together, I'm just one of the other white women who fucking fall. What's so exciting to me about this little season and this faux apocalypse and everything crumbling is not because I'm a nihilist or have any death wish or like make light of all of the real suffering that is going to be happening. But what is exciting is that the suffering that has been happening for a really long time, that matrix of control is crumbling for a pleasure-based matrix to expand out of that collapse. And if you are a white woman that is holding on to control and the old ways of the power you had, the PR you had, that's like you're on a sinking ship, and you have to get comfortable with jumping off of it to float in the scary emotional waters of the unknown. In order to get through to what it comes next. And we're just gonna see more and more crazy white woman meltdowns in the in-between. More PR breakdowns, more Taylor Lorenz's, and more women going crazy. Murdering their husbands. And I won't even get into the layer of like gender inverted reality that makes a lot of those things more clear about what is happening. But in summation, make a wash of belief. The goal is 380 today. It's a low goal. Multiples of 12. You start the process of soul redemption with a financial wash for most people. You can make those to cash.me/$washitall, paypal.me/washitall. You can comment on this live. You can share it. Those are some minor social washes that are still count, still great. Looking in this woman, Nancy Brophy's eyes and face makes me really uncomfortable. And this is the last I will speak of her. But look out. The demons are afoot. The abyss is open. And they're all going wild right now. White women are going wild. I didn't mention this, but I have it written down. A responsible role of standing or being the masculine and the feminine, the masculine standing for life and being able to die for life happily is the healed masculine. Feminine standing for or representing death, being responsible for death. That is a big responsibility because death is a natural part of living. And when healed and in the right places and done the right way, it's a role that we are what we are, one of the reasons we are here. And when it's the toxic version, it gets really, really, really frighteningly violent and scary. Some scary scaries. That's the only thing I didn't mention. So this is an example of using that power for Satan. Okay, goodbye.